Hey y'all, welcome to the Suburban Stitcher podcast. My name is Diane and today is March 22nd, 2019. This episode 160 something, I'm not exactly sure. This is a little bit different because I'm actually not going to show you any knitting because there has been almost none. But what I want to show you is a finished object that I can finally talk about and some sample knits that have come in that I am really excited about showing you. And particularly if you are going to DFW, you will get a chance to see many of these or all of them, not many of them, all of them in my booth at the Dallas-Fort Worth Fiber Festival. So to get us started, I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Diane and I live in Richmond, Texas, which is outside of Houston, and I own the business Suburban Stitcher. I'm a yarn dyer, used to be a bag maker, but that is no longer part of my business plan. I am exclusively a yarn dyer and a knitter and a mom and a wife and all of the things here in Richmond. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you are new, thanks for trying out this podcast. And if you are returning, thank you so much for coming back to watch another episode. I am getting ready for the Dallas-Fort Worth Fiber Festival that's coming up I leave in about a week and a half. So it's crazy close. The first day of the festival is... Seriously. Okay, that was actually a yarn delivery because I had to make one last minute panic. I should try to get more kits ready for DFW. So anyway, I don't remember what I was saying. I think we were talking about sample knits. Dallas-Fort Worth Fiber Festival is coming up. The first day of the festival is actually 2 weeks from today, which is literally impossible for me to believe. I leave in about a week and a half and I'm not ready. But I will be, and I am very ready to see all of the knitters and all of the smiling faces. So let's talk about what I have finished. I actually finished this about a month and a half ago. I just sewed the buttons on today because I'm ridiculous. I'm gonna scoot back a little bit. But this is a brand new sweater by Andrea Mowry. I was a test knitter. I started this back in December and then finished it at the beginning of February. The sweater is called LYS. It is a cropped, not super cropped, but definitely like this bottom hem. Let's see if I can back up a little bit. The bottom hem sits that's the top of my belly button, so it's a little bit cropped. It is amazing. It's fingering weight yarn. I knit it exactly per the pattern because it was a test knit. So my notes, oh wait, let's see. What can I talk about? So I'll show you the lace close up. It's this really pretty kind of traveling stitches that look like cables with baubles. Andrea has an amazing technique for the baubles. For those who are concerned about baubles being very close to the chest region, they are quite in. If you are maybe the smallest size, you might have to pay attention to bauble placement, but I think for most of the sweater sizes, it should be fine. She has this sized size 1 through size 8, and I knit a size 3, which I don't remember the dimensions, but I knit a size 3 because that was what my prescribed thing was. I will say that most of the test knitters and I included felt like it, if you are wondering what to knit, knit a size down. So that it ended up being a little bit bigger than maybe what you would have even needed. So yeah, so I love this sweater. I knit it out of my hand-dyed yarn, Suburban Stitcher Sock, in the Predictability colorway. The couple of things that were, I guess, unique to me about this test knit is that, first of all, I did not gauge swatch, which maybe that's not unique to me. Lots of people don't. I did not for this sweater. I looked at other sweaters that I had and looked at my gauge that was, you know, within the last 6 months and just cast on. Here's what I do know. I measured after about, I don't know, 5 or 6 inches of knitting the first sleeve because it is knit from the bottom up. I measured my gauge and I thought, oh wow, that'll block out to be just fine. It was smaller than the gauge called for in the pattern, but it looked like it would be just fine. Her gauge recommended is 28 stitches for 4 inches, and my blocked gauge on my sleeve is actually 30. So this sleeve is tighter than her gauge. However, I have big arms proportionally, so I'm actually not sad about the fact that, no, take that back. Mine is smaller than hers. So had this, like, it would have been an even roomier sleeve, I guess, is the way. Yes, that's right. My gauge is smaller, which means that had it been knit to gauge, it would have been a bigger sleeve. And I like this. I think it even could have been a little bit snugger for the size 3. So that's the first comment, is that I knit these on magic loop. They were knit first and they are smaller than gauge because of my, and I knit with her prescribed needle, but my gauge was smaller. I knit the body of the sweater on the same size needle as I knit here, but it was knit flat because it's a cardigan, so there's knitting and purling. And my blocked gauge for this is larger than her recommended size. So I never hit gauge on either part, but this was smaller than hers, this is bigger than hers. I think in the end, I'm very pleased with the fit of the garment that I have. If I knit it again, I would maybe even, well, I guess I would probably knit the same size. I don't know, I really like the fabric that I'm getting. Well, it could maybe be a little tighter on the body. Anyway, I would size down a needle size, which would mean that I would be knitting with a size US 2. Alternatively, I could knit a size down, so knit a size 2 instead of a size 3. I hope that helps and that it's not confusing. I'm really excited about this as a layer. I have worn this to a couple of different knitting. Both of my trunk shows have gotten a sneak preview of this sweater. So it has been road tested and I think the knitters like it. I love it. I love the sleeve length on this is really a great, really a good length. I love it. The neck is a bit high for me. There is short row shaping, but I still feel like the front neck is a little tiny bit high, but not enough to where I'm going to do anything about it. So yeah, LYS by Andrea Mowry, and it is out now. I have most of my notes on Ravelry, the pertinent ones, and all of the information, yardage, everything. I used a little over 2.5 skeins of my sock yarn, which is a thin sock yarn, 460 yards, and this sweater used 1,205 grams, so a little over 2.5 skeins, 2 3/4 skeins, close to. So it was great value. I love it. And fingering weight is a little bit thinner, so it's a sweater that's a lot more reasonable for Texas because we're hot year round. So that's that. Thank you, Andrea. You're not watching, but thank you for letting me just this. Okay, so now I want to talk about some things that are coming to DFW Fiber Fest. And I apologize if you are not interested in, or if you're not attending and you don't want to hear shop things, then move on to next episode, which will be in a few weeks, probably after the festival, and it will be much more a regular episode. But if you are either interested in hearing, just generally speaking, or if you're attending and want your sneak previews, then here's what you want to see. For the first time ever, I am making a really big focus on having yarn for garment knitting, which means lots of quantity in lots of different colorways. So whereas in years past, I maybe would only have 3 or 4 skeins of each color, I'm trying to have 6 to 8 or more of many of my most popular colorways. Like for example, the yarn that I used for this, which is Predictability, I have a couple of dozen skeins of this. So if anyone's wanting to knit this sweater or another fingering weight sweater, I will have lots of it. I also am very excited. So I've focused on garment knitting. I have focused also on kits, a lot of kits for my samples to make sure that if you like it, you can take that yarn home with you. And then of course I will have Evolve kits, which is the brand new shawl that came out last week by Joji Locatelli. And I'm just so excited to be a part of that. So that one, I have kits for that as well. Other things that are new for DFW and kind of making their official grand entrance. There's sort of been a soft opening, and now we're official grand opening. Grand entrance, grand opening? One of the two. Sport weight yarn is maybe my new favorite thing. I'm absolutely in love with it. I had 2 of my friends knit up some samples for me. The first one that I want to show is a cowl, also knit in Predictability, because my goal in life is to be covered in this color from head to toe forever. Eagle-eyed viewers will notice that this was the cowl that was on the mannequin last week. So if you noticed it, then that's what this was. This cowl is called Tourmaline, Tourmaline, I think. It's sport weight yarn. This is a pattern by Vera Valimaki that was in interpretations either 3 or 4. I'm almost positive. It's sport weight yarn. It takes about 2.5 skeins. It is a long cowl with some cabling. So kind of some soft loose cables and then this tighter cable along that edge. It's just absolutely stunning. I think it's so beautiful the way it drapes and just sits there. I could not be more excited about this particular piece. So this will be there as a sample. Lots of Predictability on sport and all of the bases because it's the best color. It's my signature color, I guess I would say, for sure. So yeah, so this is Tourmaline. And then the other sport weight sample that I have is a sweater that was knit by my friend Sally. She is of the Wool Slayers podcast. So if you have watched her podcast or her Instagram, then you have seen little bits and pieces of this sweater. But so this is a lace boxy sport weight sweater. So the front panel is totally laced. It looks really so good. And then it's boxy with the little sleeves. I will be wearing this maybe on Saturday, not exactly sure. Friday or Saturday at the festival. And then the back of this sweater there's the lace at the top part, and then it's plain at the back. Now, when I say plain, it's actually reverse stockinette. So not only is Sally amazing for knitting me a sweater that she then gave to me and doesn't get to keep, it was reverse stockinette, and like even the sleeves. Now, I think it says in the pattern you can knit these inside out, so that, yeah, but the sleeves, the reverse stockinette side is what shows, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The sweater is called Let It Fall, and it's by Matilda Cruz, I believe. And she is a European designer. And I just love, love, love. The yarn that was used is my sport weight yarn in the Dahlia colorway, which was a color that debuted as part of the Peach Collective and is now part of the regular lineup of Suburban Stitcher. So definitely I have a color story. I like pastel-y-ish colors. Dahlia is kind of a peachy pink, and Predictability is like a mauve with speckles. So those sport weight items are coming. The other new yarn base that is making a debut at the festival, and I will have a few, like not a ton of it and not a ton of colorways. We're just sort of testing the waters with it, I guess. But I will be bringing that Surrey alpaca lace weight. It's really like a lace slash fingering yarn, and so that will be at the festival as well. Other samples that I have kits for, I think I've showed these. I think I showed this before, but this is now blocked officially. I have Knit and Slide was a sample knit. This is by Stephen West. And this uses 4 skeins of yarn, 3 skeins of silky singles in Eggplant, Gothic, and Driftwood, and then it uses 1 skein of mohair in Cinder. And this was knit by Heather. And so that is a gorgeous shawl that we will have kits for. We will have Suburban wrap kits, of course, in both of these colorways, and then we can help you pick out alternate colorways if you choose. I will have Birds of a Feather kits, my Tandoori Birds of a Feather. I will have kits, actually not kits, but yarn for the Dye Pyramid hat, which is by Emily Green. This was featured in Pom Pom a year or 2 ago. I will have yarn for Kobuk. Lots of mohair, lots of DK weight yarn, so much DK weight yarn. So come ready to plan sweaters. I will have lots of Happy Accident, which is what I used for my party top. And while I'm holding this up, I just feel the need to say, when I wore this sweater and this sweater at a retreat a few weeks ago, I had multiple people comment on if I was going to make my sweater bigger. One was a comment about the length of it because it was cropped, and the other person, that was this sweater, like, are you done with that one? Because it's a kid sweater. No, it's not. It's an adult sweater. And then the second comment that I received about this sweater was I was wearing it just like this, and someone asked me if I would be knitting one for myself in my size, which was just fabulous. I feel like this fits perfectly and is actually not tight. It's roomy. So don't make stupid comments. That's my PSA for the day. don't make stupid comments. Just keep your mouth shut. Unless someone asks you for your opinion, then keep your mouth shut. Because most likely it will not come out correct. I will have time trades kits. This is the big wrap that I knit last year. Caitlin Hunter. Lots of kits out of this colorway, these colorways. And lastly, I will have, we already mentioned this, but I will have Evolve kits. And if you want to try it on or any of these things, they will all be in the booth, available for seeing and looking at. And so I think most of them I'll have in a place where you can try them on. So anyway, that is really just about it for this week. It's a little light on the content, I know, but that's because I actually right now have to go get back in the dye pots in the garage and get more yarn dyed up for the show. So I want to thank you so much for joining me. If you are headed, oh, the last thing I wanted to say, DFW, if you will be there, Jody and Tracy from the Grocery Girls podcast and their own design companies, they will be in the Suburban Stitcher booth, which I should know the booth number, but I don't. It's 7 something. It's right across from the stitching lounge. But they will be doing a meet and greet in the Suburban Stitcher booth from 1 to 2 on Friday. So make sure that if you are available, that you head over and come take pictures and say hi and give them a big Texas welcome. So I think that's it. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you at DFW, or I will see you here next time. Bye, y'all.